What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Luttie's Look Back. My name is Nick Luttrell. We've got a fun show today. I feel like it's the first time in a few weeks I'm actually here in studio and not out next to Bogle Park or Baum-Walker Stadium. We've got a fun show today. I will say, before we continue on, I am a little bit under the weather. I don't know if you can hear it. Kind of sounds like I have my nose plugged while I'm talking. At least that's how it sounds in my ears when I'm listening to myself. But it doesn't matter how I feel because it's postseason baseball. This is a show I had to do. And it's a show in which we'll talk about two big things: Arkansas baseball and then Little Rock baseball. We'll start with the Razorbacks first, a dominating sweep of their regional up in Fayetteville. Friday, 6-2 win over the 4 seed in their regional North Dakota State. Saturday, 12-1 win over Creighton. And then Sunday, an 8-3 win against the Blue Jays again. We'll start my show, how we always do, with my three big things. The first one, all three phases were terrific, meaning pitching, fielding, and hitting for the Razorbacks were great. The second big thing, next level trolling from the Razorback fans, and I'll explain why a little bit later. The third big thing, the job's not finished. Job's not done for this team. Let's circle back and go to my big thing number one. All three phases were terrific. Terrific this weekend. Probably the best that we've seen in months, it feels like, where all three of the phases that you need to be good at to be a good baseball team, to make it far in the NCAA tournament, to make it to Omaha, to make a run, to win the national championship, they were clicking on all cylinders in all three of the phases: hitting, pitching, and fielding. I don't know which one was more impressive, but I'm going to start with hitting because that's the one that draws the attention to the viewer. That's the one where the highlights come from. And it was very impressive what Arkansas was able to do with their bats this weekend. It wasn't super surprising because that's been their go-to thing this year. That's the thing that they've been best at. They've been a little bit better at hitting the ball than they have been pitching this year. Fielding probably better than all three of those, I guess. But hitting was great. Ryder Helfrich, the MVP of the tournament. I think someone else deserved it more. I'm going to talk about him in a second, but that doesn't discredit Ryder Helfrich. 6 hits, half of them were home runs, exciting home runs at that. He had a .545 batting average, 4 RBIs. He was great, and he did even better, maybe even better defensively. He's the one who calls the pitch counts, or he calls the whatever pitch that the pitcher's going to throw. He's the one who calls it. So he says, all right, I want a curveball left or a breaking ball right or a fastball up. He's the one who calls it. Like, he's not getting coached to tell him which pitch to have the pitcher throw. No, he's calling it. That's a really big leadership role for a sophomore to have and for a catcher to have. So I think he called 3 really good games. He also had a couple guys try to steal on him, and he threw him out. So that was impressive as well. He was great. And to have him playing good is awesome for this Arkansas team. He's continuing to move up in the lineup. Hitting was great from Ryder Helfrich. But I think better than him was Cam Koshel. And here's why. In game number 1, if you watch game number 1, it was the worst performance out of all 3 of the games, if you want to consider it saying it that way. Arkansas only won 6-2 against the 4 seed in their regional North Dakota State. And that's when we were feeling, okay, this is good, like we won the first game, but if we play like this against Creighton or Kansas, we're probably not going to win. That's how the Razorback fans were probably feeling, as was I. They played much better in the 2 games that they played against Creighton. In North Dakota State, though, it was Cam Koshel carrying the team. He was 3 for 4 against North Dakota State, and then I think he had 2 hits on Saturday against Creighton. Now, they ended up winning 12-1 against the Blue Jays on Saturday. They didn't necessarily need his help like they did on Friday, but Friday he carried the team. He got them that win on Friday against North Dakota State. Meanwhile, on Saturday, again, they scored a lot of runs, but the first few innings, who got them going? It was Cam Koshel. The second baseman, or you put him at first base sometimes, but he's at second right now. The Vanderbilt transfer, he has performed highly this year, and especially in the last month or 2, he has been on fire. In this postseason, he was on fire. In the SEC tournament, he was on fire. Some of his stats: a .461 batting average, 6 hits, and 6 RBI. What he did was really special. Charles Davalon was great. Vahiva Aloy was pretty good, not amazing, but good. Logan Maxwell had a couple great home runs. He's a guy who only had a few home runs last season with TCU. This year, double digits now probably. I probably should have written it down, but hitting was great. The only downside that wasn't terrific, I will say, because moving forward, I'd like this guy to step up a little bit more. It's Kohio Aloy. 3 hits, 12 at-bats. Maybe got walked a time or two. Not that I remember. Maybe once or twice, but Kohio Aloy did not play good. And you want your designated hitter to play good because that's his only job, is to hit the ball. And for a lot of the part of the season, he was hitting the ball pretty well. The early part of the season, he was hitting the ball really well. He was batting above 400 for the first, feels like 2 months of the season. This last month or two has not been so good. So, if anything needs to change going forward, if I'm really being a perfectionist, it'd be nice to get Kohio Aloy going again. But even without him, this team has so many other weapons. And as you saw throughout this weekend, they hit the ball really well. So that's offensively. Hitting was really well. Pitching was terrific as well. 41 strikeouts, 20 of which came on Sunday. Zach Root, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts. Only walked 1. That was on Saturday, and then it was even better on Sunday with a combination of Gage Wood and then Gabe Gackle. Wood, 6 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, didn't walk a single batter, and then you throw in Gabe Gackle, who was, I didn't see him in person because I was outside filming the 10 o'clock show and being live for the 10 o'clock show, but statistically he was great. Maybe not as good as Gage Wood, but 7 strikeouts and 3 innings pitched is phenomenal work, and didn't walk a single batter, gave up 2 hits. Gage Wood had that one inning where he gave up the single, then a hit batter, and then a home run, and he responded from that. He bounced back from that, which is what Arkansas needed. Pitching was terrific. Pitching was terrific this weekend for the Hogs, which was probably more of the surprising thing. I think people expected Arkansas offense to be what they were, maybe a little bit better. They did a little bit better than what people thought, but pitching was really good. So 3 phases: hitting, pitching, fielding was also really good. No errors. That's all I'm going to say on that front. No errors, because we need to move on to the next point. All 3 phases were terrific. Let's go to big point number 2. Next level trolling from the Razorback fan base. If you watch this game, and especially if you were in person, you might have noticed when Creighton, and this was only on Sunday's game, when Creighton's starter would go for the windup, he'd do this weird little foot thing. Now you can't see my foot because the camera's my waist and above, but he'd do this weird little foot thing where he'd do step, 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 and then throw. Like his same little routine, just like a pitcher has, right? The Arkansas fan base, and give credit to whoever started it. If you're the one who started it, please reach out to me. I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to bring you on the show. I mean, come on. Whoever started this, they just counted out those steps. So he'd wind back, and then he'd go 1, 2, 3, and then throw. The Razorback fan base, once one guy started it, or once a group of people started it, 8,000 people started chanting 1, 2, 3. And it was just hilarious because what an effect that they made on this game. And, a fan base, when you have home field advantage, is always going to make some sort of effect. I don't think people ever expected it to make this amount of effect that it did on Sunday night. To get in that guy's head, and then he ended up throwing a couple, walking a couple, hitting a couple batters. Arkansas was crushing their pitchers, home run after home run, it felt like, all weekend long. And I feel like you got to give credit to the troll level, to the trolling from the Razorback fan base. To shout that out, to get in his head, to mess with the other team, to help your team win. And they're going to need that when a pretty good team comes to town this weekend. That is big point number 2. Before we get on to big point number 3, that the job is not done for this team, I want to play a clip here from Dave Van Horn because the job isn't finished. But I think he was asked here, how fortunate do you feel going undefeated in your own regional, especially when that's something that other teams have struggled to do throughout college baseball, and that's something that Arkansas has struggled to do the past 2 seasons. Here's his response to that question.
I feel great about it. I feel very fortunate. It's not easy. I mean, we've sat here 2 years in a row and we didn't get out of here. We went and won somebody else's regional in 22. In 21, we won a regional and got beat in the last game by a run to go to Omaha. I mean, I've kind of been on all sides of it, and you never take it for granted at all. It's like I told the guys, when we left Hoover, you have got to go earn it. Nobody's going to give you anything. You look at who's winning around the country. You start thinking you're all that. You'll get it handed to you. And these guys, they stayed humble and they got after it. And we get to hang out again together for at least another week.
Yeah, so Arkansas stays together for another week. I thought that was a sweet way to end what was a pretty good answer to the question. You saw there, he recognizes, obviously, just like the fans out there, that they've had their struggles in the past. And they've done it in a variety of ways to get to Omaha. And maybe this is the year where they can win their own regional, win their own super regional, and make it all the way to the College World Series. And I think maybe I'm guessing 2018 was the last time that they did that. We all remember what happened that year. But it was a good team, and a team that made it all the way to the championship series, one out away from winning it all. So that was a really good team that year. But anyway, big point number 3, the job's not done for this team. And you heard from Coach Dave Van Horn. They're ready. They're moving on to next week, and we'll talk about their opponent in a second. But one of the biggest things I noticed just from this weekend and being there and being in that press conference room with Dave Van Horn and Ryder Helfrich and Cam Kozel and Gage Wood and all those players we got to talk to at the end of their games this weekend, they were sure they showed a smile every now and then, but they weren't satisfied. They expected to do what they did this weekend. And I don't know if that's something that I personally can say that I expected them to do. I expected Arkansas to win their regional, but I expected them to lose a game. I expected them to not dominate. I expected them to not outscore opponents 26-6. But it doesn't matter what my expectations were or what your expectations were. The team's expectations is to win the whole thing, to win the national championship. So winning a regional is, okay, that's great, but it's time to move on to what's next. They celebrated. They were excited. It was a great environment. They were fired up. Gage Wood was fired up. But then when he came in that press conference room, it was almost like they had already moved on to, all right, let's get ready for this weekend, this upcoming weekend, the Super Regionals. It's on to what's next. They have the rule sometimes, like, you're going to enjoy this one for the rest of the night, go out, have some fun, and then tomorrow we prepare for what's next. That did not seem like the case for this team. They enjoyed it for maybe 10, 15 minutes. And that's because this team wants more. They want more than just sweeping a regional, than just getting out of their own regional, something Arkansas hasn't done the past few seasons. They want more. They're not even going to be satisfied with a super regional. They're not even going to be satisfied winning a game or two in Omaha. They want to win the whole thing. And I think this team, and I've said it many times, I know this team is capable of making it to Omaha, of being a top 8 team in the country. And I'm starting to see that they're a team that can win the whole thing. And I'm starting to believe that as well. If they play like they did this past weekend, and I know the competition that's ahead of them is a little bit more challenging, probably a lot more challenging than what they face this weekend. They probably got a little lucky here or there with some things with Creighton and North Dakota State and not having to play Kansas. They got a tough challenge ahead, but if they play like they did this past weekend, I like Arkansas's chances. The job is not done for this team. All right, and as for Arkansas's super regional matchup, this is who they've got. Now, by the time you're watching this, you'll probably know the start day and what time it's at and what network it's on. As of this recording, I do not know that information, so that's why the bottom part of the graphic is blank. But that's who the Razorbacks got. Arkansas and Tennessee, a Volunteers team I know hasn't played good, didn't play good down the stretch of the regular season, but they are the defending national champs, and they do have a team that is really good to take on the Razorbacks. So let's talk about this game and what it looks like for Arkansas, and kind of my keys to win, some tidbits to know. If you don't know anything about maybe either team, you probably know a little bit about Arkansas by this point. Maybe you don't know much about Tennessee baseball. Give you a quick rundown, then we'll move on to Little Rock. The first thing to know about Tennessee is their head coach. That's Tony Vitello, former Arkansas assistant. That's where he kind of, how do I put it, became popular. And he's from that Dave Van Horn coaching tree. And then eventually went off to Tennessee. Now he's been their head coach, and he's been pretty dominant with them the past half decade, I would say. He's been really good for them. And there's a little bit of speculation that there's some beef now between Vitello and Dave Van Horn because of a little altercation that happened, I think 2 or 3 years ago now. I think it was just one time, and now just that little them jawing back and forth at the end of the post game between Arkansas and Tennessee one year, just that alone has sparked a rivalry between both of these teams. That's what it is. I think it's a rivalry now between Arkansas and Tennessee. And it's probably silly. If you ask both of them, they don't think it's a rivalry. They think it's a big game anytime they face them in the regular season. It's a big game when you face them in the Super Regional with a chance to go to Omaha on the line. Those are big games, but I don't think the head coaches would say it's a rivalry. I think that little altercation that those two coaches had was just a one-off thing. Sure, they may not be best friends, but I don't think they're enemies like some people make it out to be. That doesn't take away from the fact that this is a really big game, obviously. It's a really big game, and a lot of Arkansas fans don't like Tennessee. And I get it because Coach Vitello is, arrogant, pompous, cocky. He's got a little ego to him, for sure. And his team feeds off that. His team feeds off that. And when they hit home runs, they celebrate like they're the number one team in the country, and they were for a good amount of time the past few years. So the defending national champs, they were the best team in the country last year, and they were at the early parts of the season one of the best teams in the country, and then they kind of fell off that the last few weeks. Until this regional, they played a little bit better. They beat Wake Forest and a few other teams in their regional to advance to face the Razorbacks. That's the first thing. Tony Vitello, he's their coach. He's not a guy that Arkansas fans like very much. But at the same time, he's a guy in which Arkansas fans might be okay with having as the next head coach because he's that good. So they might put his personality aside. It's one of those guys, not quite the level of like an Eric Musselman, where he's like hyped up and he's going to take his shirt off and throw it around every time they win a big basketball game. Not quite that level, but he is up there with his enthusiasm and intensity in the game, and his team certainly reflects that. And you'll see. If you don't already know, you're going to see it this weekend. Because I do think Tennessee will perform better than they did when they came to Fayetteville a few weeks ago. And that's the other thing. These teams have faced each other. They faced each other just a few weeks ago. So let's briefly talk about that. And a couple of the players that you need to know about. They have the SEC Pitcher of the Year, Liam Doyle. And they got one of the best hitters in the country, and that's Andrew Fisher. He has 24 home runs. That leads the SEC. That's more home runs than Vahiva Aloy, than Ryder Helfrich, than Brent Iredale. More than any Hog has, 24 home runs. That's the best in the SEC. But two notes on them, Liam Doyle, Andrew Fisher. For Doyle, great, terrific pitcher. But he didn't play very good when he played the Razorbacks. Arkansas got 11 hits off of Doyle when they played a few weeks ago. 6 earned runs. They dominated him, which was surprising because that hadn't happened much this season. So I'm really curious to see whether this game starts Friday or Saturday, whenever game one is. Probably be Zach Root against Liam Doyle. Can Arkansas do what they did against Doyle a few weeks ago? If the answer is yes to that question, I feel I got a lot of confidence in Arkansas winning game one and game two. If they don't, I still think Arkansas has a good chance to win. I just don't think they'll sweep them or win 2-0 or whatever. I think it could go to a game three. I think it's very, very possible that it could go to a game three because I do think Tennessee's a good team. So I mentioned Liam Doyle, really good pitcher. He's going to start game one against the Hogs. Andrew Fisher, their go-to offensive guy. When he played the Razorbacks, quite the opposite of Doyle. He actually played really good. 8 hits, 14 at-bats. It's a .571 batting average. He had 3 RBI. He's one of the best players in the country. Easily, one of the best players in the SEC, one of the best players in the country. And, maybe not best players in the country. He can hit the long ball well, and he was really good when Arkansas faced him a few weeks ago. So that's a key for me for Arkansas in this Super Regional, shutting down Andrew Fisher because he destroyed them when they played each other a few weeks ago. The last thing I will say is something on Arkansas' side. Zach Root, Gage Wood, bravo to both of you for having terrific outings in your regional. Now, perform that same way in this upcoming Super Regional because you did it against Tennessee the last time they played. Zach Root did not have a good outing. Gage Wood did not have a good outing. They both only went a few innings. Now, thankfully, Arkansas won that series a few weeks ago because of the bullpen, because of a guy like Will McIntyre. Now, if they have to lean on their bullpen again, let's do it again. Let's win it, all right? But ideally, you want to have those starting pitchers have the outings that they had in the regional. Then I think you win both the games easily. Just in my opinion. Now, if I had to make a prediction right now, I do think Arkansas will win this Super Regional. I think it'll go to 3 games. I'm not going to say whether who's going to take which game. I'm just going to say Arkansas in 3. I think they'll make it to Omaha. We'll see. Tennessee's a good team. Tennessee's a really good team, but I like the Razorbacks advancing and going to Omaha. All right, that's enough talk about the Razorbacks. Let's move on to fun segment I've been doing the past few weeks, past month I think it's been. It's my Lutties Legend of the Week. Now, this is where we transition to talk about Little Rock, and I'm going to go more into depth later to talk about them, and so we'll wait on that. We'll talk about my Lutties Legend of the Week first, and it's a Little Rock player. It's Angel Cano. And now I know Little Rock won, and they had a terrific regional. They fell just short to LSU in a game on Monday night that went down to the wire, down close to midnight, and they lost that game. But Angel Cano all weekend was the best player in that regional. He was awarded the MVP of the regional. He batted 454 batting average, 15 RBIs. 15 RBI in the 4 games that they played down in Baton Rouge. 15. It wasn't just like, I think he had like 8 hits maybe, 10, I think 10. It was 10 for 21, I believe. 3 of those were home runs, by the way. It just seemed like every time he came up to bat, it was with runners on base, and it was in clutch moments, and he delivered in those clutch moments. So what a job from Cano, the native of Columbia, having a terrific outing and putting his name on the map. Now, I'm pretty sure he's a senior, and that's it for him, but what a way to go out as a Trojan and absolutely dominate. So he is very worthy of my Lutties Legend of the Week. Let's move on to talk about Little Rock baseball. Talk about them as a whole, what that means, or what it means for them, not necessarily going forward, but just, I know they didn't win this regional, but man, did they perform to the best of their ability. No one thought they were going to win a single game. Out of the 4 teams in their regional, they were the number 4 seed, and they went all the way to the regional final, won one of the games, and then lost the last one. They did the unexpected. They were the Cinderella story of the NCAA tournament. Them or Murray State. Murray State won theirs. They're on to the Super Regional. Congrats to them. Little Rock was right there with them, of the team everyone was cheering for to pull off the upset one more time and make it onto the Super Regional. The funny thing, if Little Rock would have won that game and then somehow win their Super Regional this upcoming weekend, go to Omaha, and Arkansas also wins their Super Regional, go to Omaha, they would play each other in that first game in the College World Series. So that would have been so cool. It was very unlikely to happen, but as Little Rock continued to push LSU a little bit more, it was like, it might happen. It didn't happen, but wouldn't that have been cool? Let's recap quickly. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, the 4 days that they played. I guess, 4 days, 5 games that they played. Friday, they did not look good. I mean, it's LSU. So we're like, all right, they lost 7-0. Didn't score a single run. They came back Saturday, played Rhode Island, the 3 seed, and dominated 22-10, the final score on Saturday. Came back Sunday, eliminated Dallas Baptist University, a DBU team that is top 25 in the country. They won that game 8-6, and then turned around that same day and took down LSU. This is Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. Took down LSU 10-4. 10-4, they beat the Tigers, the number 6 team in the country. Back-to-back wins on a very special day. I mean, that was a day that I think Little Rock baseball fans will remember forever, because the day before they just won their first ever NCAA tournament game. And then, the next day, Sunday, you're just hoping to stay alive, right? And And they did stay alive, and in a big way. And they forced LSU to go to an all-or-nothing elimination game on Monday night, in which Little Rock was right there with them. They were up 5-1, they were down 7-5, and they cut it 7-6, and then LSU kind of scored a few runs there in the ninth inning to win it. But congrats to them. I mean, they deserve a lot of credit and a lot of publicity for the season that they had. I know it wasn't a great season. They lost 13 of 14 games heading into the postseason, but they had so many injuries, and to rally and to win 5 games in 4 days in the OVC tournament, and then make it, push LSU to the brink of elimination, something that's never happened to them. They've never lost to a 4 seed in a regional game. They've only lost their own regional a few times in program history. To push them that far is something to be really proud of. So Little Rock, congrats to you on a really good baseball season. Well, that's going to do it for Luttie's Look Back, episode number 36, I believe. Another fun one. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We made it through. We pushed through. We talked a lot of baseball. It was a lot of fun. And we're going to be back next week. Don't you worry about it. Hopefully the nasal congestion will be out of the way. Hopefully I'll be at Baum-Walker Stadium right outside of it, talking about Arkansas advancing to Omaha to the College World Series. We'll have to see. But that's the Luttie's Look Ahead. Arkansas, Tennessee, the Super Regionals this weekend. We'll talk about it on next week's episode of Luttie's Look Back.